So, good morning, my dear students of ITE6102, Computer Programming 1. So, again, I am your OLC, Miss Karen V. Lara, and I would like to welcome you all to our virtual class today. But before we moved on to our new topic, let us all recall what we have learned or discussed last meeting. So we've learned the basic types of iterative or looping statements such as for, while, and do while. So iterative statements are used to repeat a block of code. So let us review the syntax for each of the looping statements. So we have for, initialization, condition, increment, decrement, open curly brace, C++ statements, and close curly brace. For the while statement, we have while, condition, open curly brace, a block of code, and close curly brace. And for the do while loop, we have do, open curly brace, block of code, close curly brace, while, and then condition. So infinite loop executes repeatedly and never stops, which usually happens by mistake. So the keywords for all the iterative statements such as for, while, and do while are all written in lowercase letters because C++ implements case sensitivity. So we have to follow that to prevent syntax error. So now let us proceed with our main topic for today, which is the C++ arrays. So arrays are used to store multiple values in a single variable instead of declaring separate variables for each value. So in this particular diagram, it will demonstrate that array is a collection of similar items stored in a contiguous memory locations. So in programming, sometimes a simple variable is not enough to hold all the data. So for example, we have a class that has 27 students and we need to store the grades of all of them. So having 27 different variables for this task is not feasible. So we can create an array as double grade which will have an element of 27. So grade is an array that can hold a maximum of 27 elements of double type, a data type. So in C++, the size and type of arrays cannot be changed after its declaration. So we have here a, um, um, a method on how we are going to declare an array. So first, we have to define the variable type. We have to specify the name of the array followed by a square brackets and specify the number of elements it should store. So we have string car square bracket 4. The string here, which is written in lowercase, is the type of element to be stored, while cars here is the name of the array and the value that is inside the square bracket is the size of the array. Okay, so next, we have now declared a variable that holds an array for our strings. So to insert values to it, we can use an array literal. We place the values in a comma separated list inside curly braces. Such as, for example, we have string cars 4. Then we can um, place a values here, a string of values like, for example, we have Volvo, BMW, Ford, Mazda. But these strings must be enclosed in a double quotation. So to create an array of 3 integers, we may write int as your data type or the type of element to be stored. Then we have mynum, which is the name of your array, and the size of the array is 3. So we have 10, 20, and 30, and close in open and close curly braces. So declaring an array. So there are a couple of ways to declare an array. So method 1, we can use int r. and then size of array 5. So we have R0, 10, R1, 20, R2, 30, R3, 40, and arrow 4, 50. So it is the array always starts with the size 0
Zero.
followed by a consecutive values. Okay. So next, another method to declare an array is int r square bracket is equal to close curly braces 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. Okay, next. The third method is we have int r, then we specify the size of the array, and then 10, 20, 30, 40, and 50. So how do we assess array elements? So array index starts with 0, which means that the first array element is at index 0. Second is at index 1, and so on and so forth. So we can use this information to display the array elements. So in this example, we have associated array with a number. So this number is known as an array index. So the array indices starts with 0, meaning x is equal to 0, is the first element shared or stored at index 0. So if the size of an array is n, the last element is stored at index n minus 1. So example, we have x square bracket 5, which will be the last element of your array. So elements of an array have consecutive addresses. So in this particular example, we have include iostream using namespace std, int main, and then we have int for the type of the element, r as the name of your array, and we did not specify the value of the array. But we have a values here like 11, 22, 33, 44, and 55. In order to display those values, we have to use cout R0 and then end the statement and then cout R1, cout R2, cout R3, and cout R4. This method will be able to display the values such as 11, 22, 33, 44, and 55. Okay, so although the code for this program displays all the elements of the array, but this one is not recommended. So when you want to access a particular array element, so we have to display all the elements by using a looping statement. So in this particular slide, we will rewrite the code from the previous slide and we will come up with this program. So we have include iostream using namespace std and then int main. Then we have int r here and we have to specify the values that will be stored in your array. So we have 11, 22, 33, 44, and 55. Now we declare the value of your n is equal to 0 since the index of your array will start with 0. So we have n is equal to 0 while n is less than equal to 4, then we have to display here the first value of your array stored square bracket 0. And then the program will increment and it will loop again. And then the next value of your n will be equal to 1. And then is 1 less than equal to 4. And then display the value. And then n is equal to 2. And then is 2 less than equal to 4. And then display and then increment its value until the program satisfies the condition to true. So it will display the output 11, 22, 33, 44, and 55.
Ma'am, may tanong po ako.
Questions later, anak, ha? We will we will continue our discussion first. Okay, next. How are we going to change an element array or an array element? So to change the value of a specific element, we refer to the index number. So we have include iostream, include string here, using namespace std, int main, and then we're going to declare your array here. So string cars 4 followed by the values of your string. And then cars is equal to 0. We are going to change the value of a specific element. So car 0 is equal to Opel. So the values of the car 0 will only be displayed, which is Opel. Okay. So next, let's proceed with C++ functions. So a function is a block of code which only runs when it is called, and you can pass data known as parameters into a function. So functions are used to perform certain actions and they are important for reusing code. But we have to define the code once and use it many times. So the function is a block of code which is used to perform a specific task. For example, you wanted to write a large C++ program, and in that program you wanted to do a particular task several number of times. Like for example, you wanted to display a value from 1 to 10. And in order to do that, you have to write few lines of codes and you need to repeat these lines every time you need to display values. So another way of doing this is that you write these lines inside a function and call that function every time you want to display values. So this would make your code simple, readable, and reusable. So that is the use of your function. So how are we going to create a function? So C++ provides some predefined functions. So these predefined functions can be found inside your C++ standard library. So one of the best example of a function is your main open and close parentheses, which is used to execute a code. So, but you can also create your own functions, which is known as a user-defined functions. So to perform a certain action. So to create a function, you have to specify the name of the function followed by a parenthesis. So here is the syntax for creating a function. So we have void my function, open and close parenthesis, open curly brace, a code to be executed or a C++ statements, plus your close curly brace. So my function in the syntax is the name of the function. The void here is another reserved word which is written in small letters. So this means that the function does not have a return value. So inside the function is the body which add code that defines what the function should do. So in calling a function, so declared function are not executed immediately. They are saved for later use and will be executed later. So when they are called. So to call a function, write the function's name followed by two parentheses. So the open and close parentheses and a semicolon. So the syntax is function underscore name plus its parameter and then semicolon. So we have here an example of a function. So we have include iostream using namespace std and then void my function and then cout I just got executed and then close curly braces. So we have to indicate your main program. So the main program is int main, open and close parentheses, and then close curly brace. Then we have to call our my function here, which was created at the beginning of your program. And then return 0 and then close curly brace. So void my function here is, this is the part where we create the function. And then the second part of your program, which is the main program, here is a method where we call the function. So when we call the function my function, it will be displayed. So our output is I just got executed. So in this slide, we are going to call a multiple function. So we have include IOStream using namespace std, void my function, cout I just got executed. And then we have your main program, int main, wherein we're going to call all the function here. So we are going to call the function that we have created 3 times. So we have my function, my function, my function, and then return 0 and then close curly braces. So again, the first part of your program is a part where we created the function, and the second part of your program is we call the function. So we have here an output of a string I just got executed, which will be displayed 3 times since we indicated in our, since we called our function 3 times. So function declaration and definition. So a C++ function consists of 2 parts. So we have the declaration and definition. So declaration is the function's name, return type, and parameter. And then the definition is the body of the function or the code to be executed. So we have void my function, wherein we're going to declare our function here, and then body of the function and your close curly braces. So example number 3, include IOStream using namespace std, int main, my function, and then return 0. And the next, void my function, cout, I just got executed. So the output is an error, my function was not declared in this scope. So if the user defined a function such as, for example, my function, which is declared after the main function, an error will occur. So it is because C++ works from top to bottom or line by line, which means that if the function is not declared above the main or main open and close parentheses, the program is unaware of it. So we have to declare it in the main function. So we have another example here. So we have include IOStream using namespace std. Then we have to declare the function here. So void my function, open and close parentheses, and then our main method, which is represented by int main, open and close parentheses, and then open curly brace. So my function here is, we are calling the function as specified in the comment, and then return 0. So we have to declare your function definition here. Void my function, open and close parentheses, open curly brace, and then cout, I just got executed, and close curly brace. So it is possible to separate the declaration and the definition of function for the purpose of code optimization. So you will often use or see some C++ programs that have function declaration above the main. So the function definition is below the main part of your program, and this will make the code better organized and easier to read. So next, we have example number 5. So include IOStream and then using namespace std, int sum, int. So this is our variable declaration. We use this data type integer, sum as your identifier, and then we specify int. So this is the function declaration at the beginning of your program. So we have int main, open and close parentheses, open curly brace, which is your main function or the main program. So cout sum, 1, comma 99, we are calling a function here and then return 0. So now your int sum will have a value of int num1, int num2. So int num3 is equal to int1 plus num1 plus num2. So return num3. So your int sum, int num1 and int num2 here, the function is defined after the main method. So your num1 here will be represented by the value 1 and num2 here will be represented by the value 99. So in the main function, you were asked to, or the program asked to add num1 and num2. So we're going to add 1 and 99. So we will have the output 100. Okay. So next is the types of functions. So I have already mentioned the types of function, but I will give you the definition of the types of function. So in C++, we have two types of function. The first one is the built-in function. So standard library functions predefined in the C++ standard library. So C++ library functions are built in the C++ programming or compiler. So programmers can use library functions by invoking the functions directly, and you don't need to write the functions themselves. So in order to use the library functions, we usually need to include the header file in which the library functions are defined. So there are some common built-in functions under the CMAT or the mat.h. So it includes, for example, pow or power. Then we also have remainder. We have log for the logarithm. We also have sqt for square or square root of a number. So there are a lot of built-in functions that can be found inside the C++ library. So the second type of function is the user-defined functions. So the user-defined functions are created by the user. So these functions make the code reusable. Then we can also declare them once and use them multiple times. So these functions make the program easier as each small task is also divided into functions. And functions increases readability. Okay, so next we have the built-in functions. So again, these built-in functions are known as library functions, and we need not to declare and define these functions as they are already written in the C++ library, such as IOStream or the input and output stream, and then CMAT, string.h, conio.h. So those are some of the examples of the header files that can also be found inside their C++ libraries. So we can directly call them when we need to. So example of the application of your built-in function. So we have include IOStream, and then we have included in this directive a new header file, which is CMAT, or we use include CMAT or mat.h using namespace std. So in main, open and close parentheses, and then the open curly brace. So we will just display in this program the POW, or we will use POW to 5 and then return 0, then the close curly brace. So in this program, we are using a built-in function POW, x and y. X is 2 and y is 5. So which x to the power of y. So the function is declared using your CMAT or mat header file, so that we have included it at the beginning of your program declaration. So 2 raised to 5 or 2 to the power of 5 is 32. So next, for for the user-defined function, C++ allows programmer to define their own function. So you can create your own function using your user-defined function. So a user-defined function groups code to perform a specific task, and that group of code is given a name or identifier. So when the function is invoked from any part of the program, it all executes the code defined in the body of your function. So for this example, okay, so we have include iostream, include cmat or mat.h, using namespace std, int main, open and close parentheses, and then open curly brace. So we're going to declare a function sum. So we have here a variable declaration in integer x and y, cout, enter first number, and then cin x. So we are going to store the value of the first number in your variable x, and then cout, enter second number, cin y. So we're going to store the second value or the second number in your integer variable y. So cout, sum of these two, and then colon, sum x and y. So we have here a concatenation of string to call the value of the x and y, and then return 0. Okay, so we have to continue here. So we have to define the function sum, int a, int b. So we have int c is equal to a plus b, and then return 0. So if you are going to observe the program, so we have an initial value of your integer x and y. Then we define a function sum here. So the value of your x will be represented by the value of your a, and the value of your y will be represented by b. So we have a plus b, and then return c to display the value of your sum. So our output, for example, we are going to enter the first number, for example, 22, and enter the second number, which is 19. And the sum of these two, 22 plus 19, is equal to 41. Okay, so now let's proceed with the C++ function parameter. So information can be passed to a function as a parameter, and parameter act as a variables inside the function. So parameters are specified after the function name inside the parentheses, and you can add as many parameters as you want. So you just separate them with a comma. So the syntax for the function parameter is void function name, parameter 1, parameter 2, parameter 3. So it is enclosed in open and close parentheses and separated with a comma. And then close curly brace, code to be executed, and your close curly brace. So in this example, it has a function that takes a string called fname. So we have here void my function string fname, cout fname, and then I declared here an example of an fname to be displayed, which is Santos. And I use \n so that your program or the output will be displayed on the next line. So the fname here is considered as a parameter. So when the function is called, we pass along a first name, which is used inside the function to print the full name. So I have here a main program, which indicates inside your int main, and then open and close parentheses, and then your left curly brace. So my function, I display a string enclosed in double quote Liam, and another my function Jenny, and another my function Anya. So when a parameter is passed to this function, it is called an argument. So from this example, f name is a parameter. So while Liam, Jenny, and Anya are known as arguments. So the f name will be a pass inside the main function. So we have Liam Santos, Jenny Santos, and Anya Santos. So C++ default parameter. So we have the default parameter value. So you can also use a default parameter value by using the equal sign. Okay. So example, we have include iostream, include string, using namespace std, void my function, string country is equal to Norway. And then cout country, and then I also use another \n to display your output on the next line. So in this example, we call the function without an argument. So it uses the default value. So what is the default value? So our default value here is Norway. So we have int main, my function Sweden, my function India, and then my function, just open and close parentheses, no string inside. And then my function USA, return 0 and then close curly brace. A parameter with the default value is often known as an optional parameter. So this one is known as an optional parameter. So from this example, country is an optional parameter and Norway is the default value. Since we did not indicated a string here on your third my function, so basically the default value that will be displayed in your program is Norway. Okay. So next is the C++ multiple parameter. So let's use the previous program from the previous slide. So we have include iostream, include string using namespace std, void my function, string fname, and integer age. So cout fname, then I use Santos again, and then age, and then years old. So for the main function, I included my function Liam, 3, which is the age, Jenny, 14, and Anya, 30. So inside the function, we can add as many parameters as you want. Note that when we are working with multiple parameter, the function call must have the same number of arguments. So, and these are parameters. So the arguments must be passed in the same order. So we have the output Liam, and then you call the values from your F name, which is Santos, and then display the age, which is 3, and then concatenate it years old. And then Jenny Santos, 14 years old, Anya Santos, 30 years old. So C++ return keyword or the return values. So the void keyword is used in the previous examples indicate that the function should not return a value or null value. So if you want the function to return a value, you can use a data type such as an integer, a string, a double, or any data type that we have learned previously. And instead of void, you may use the keyword return inside the function. So by the way, the return is also included in the list of your reserved word and it is written in small letter. So example, so we have include iostream using namespace std, int my function, int x, int y, and then return x plus y. So for our main program, we have int main, open and close parentheses, and then open curly brace, cout my function 5, 3, return 0, and then close curly brace. So integer x here inside your my function is represented by 5, and int y is represented by 3. Remember that if we wanted to indicate a value inside the function, we're not going to use the void keyword since the void keyword do not return any value. So we will be using here a return so that there will be a value that will be displayed. So we have return x plus y. So we add the value of 5 and 3, which is equal to 8. Okay, so next, C++ pass by reference. So we have include IOStream using namespace std, void swap nums, int, and then ampersand x, and then we have int ampersand y, int z is equal to x is equal to y, and y is equal to z. So we have int main, open and close parentheses, and then the open curly brace. So int first num is equal to 10, and int second num is equal to 20. So in this example, we use a normal variables when we pass the parameters to a function. You can also pass a reference to a function, and this can be useful when you need to change the value of your arguments. So for this example, we have C out before swap, and then C out first num, second num. So swap nums here for first num and second num is we call the function which will change the value of the first num and the second num. So the first value of your first num is 10 and the second value for the second num is 20. So we are going to call the function that will swap the value of the first num and the second num. So we have cout after swap, first num, second num. So that's why our output is before swap, which is 10 and 20, which is the first value or the original value of your integer first num and second num. So that's 10 and 20. And then for the after swap, we change the values. So we have 20 and 10. So that's the execution of the program. So next, we have the C++ function overloading. So when function overloading, multiple functions can have the same name with different parameter. Example, int my function int x, float my function float x, double my function double x, and double y. So in this example, we have include IOStream, and then using namespace std, int plus function int x and int y, and then your open curly brace, return x plus y, and then close curly brace. So considering this example, we have two functions that add numbers of different type. So we have here plus func double, double x, and double y. So we have a different type or different data type. So the first one is an integer and the second one is a double. So return x plus y. So instead of defining the two functions, we should do the same. So it is better to overload the other one. So we have here your main program, int main, int my num1 is equal to plus func int 8 and 5. And then for double my num2 is equal to plus func double 4.3 and 6.26. So then display the value of your num1 and my num1 and my num2. So multiple functions can have the same name as long as the number and or type of parameters are different. So since we have declared here the value for your x and y as integer, and this one, we declare the value of your x and y as double. Then we are going to execute the program. So we have to add the value of your integer x and y, which is 8 and 5. So the output is int 13. And then we're going to add the value of your double x and y, which is 4.3 plus 6.26, which is double 10.56. Okay, so next, another example. So we have include IOStream using a namespace std, and then we're going to display here a number. So void display num, int n1, float n2. Okay, so this example will have two functions that add numbers of different type, different data type. So we have cout. The int number is n1, which is represented by an integer. And we have here cout, the double number is n2. So we will be having a function that has one int parameter and one double parameter. So int main, open and close parentheses, and then open curly brace. Int num1 is equal to 5. Okay, so the value will be stored here in your num1, and then double num2 is equal to 5.5. So calling the function display num1, num2. So when we pass num1 and num2 as arguments, so these values are stored by the function parameter n1 and n2 respectively. So since the value of your n1 and n2 here is integer and float, then we will pass the value of your n1 and n2 to 5 and 5.5. So our output will be int num1 is 5 and double number is 5.5. Okay, so here. So the type of the arguments passed while calling the function must match with the corresponding parameters defined in the function declaration. So we have here void display num. So we have our int n1 and double n2. So the program asks you to display num1 and num2. So basically, you are calling a function and it will be passed through your variable n1 and n2. Okay? So for our exercise number 1, let's try to create an array of type string called fruits. So anybody can answer. So in this exercise number 1, what is lacking or what is missing in this program fragment? So we have square bracket 4, and then we have a string here enclosed in double quote, orange, banana, apple, and grape. So what is missing inside this program fragment? So what's missing here is string fruits. So we have to declare first the type of element to be stored, followed by the name of the array, which is user defined, and the size of the array. So for exercise number 2, so create a function named myFunction and call it inside main. So we have void, open and close parentheses, then open curly brace, cout, I just got executed, and then close curly brace. So int main, open and close parentheses, and then open curly brace. Then we have here a semicolon, blank and semicolon, then return 0, and then close curly brace. Okay, so what is wrong with this program, or what is missing inside this program? Anybody can answer. What is missing?
The declaration of
The
the function
declaration.
void
Okay.
space my function,
Mm-hmm.
and then inside the main, uh, we should call the my function open close parenthesis semicolon.
Okay, very good. So, very good. So, we have void my function, okay? And then, uh, and then we have your C out. I just got executed. And int main, and what's missing here is my function. So we have, how are we going to display the output I just got executed if we will not call our function here? Okay. For our last exercise, let's trace the output. So we have include IOStream using namespace std, and then void greet, open and close parentheses, and then open curly brace. See out hello there, which will be a string that will be displayed, and close curly brace. So int main, so let's call greet or function greet, and then return 0. So what will be the output of our program?
Ma'am, the output will be hello there because we call the greet function.
Okay, very good. So the output of your program is under your void function, which is we also uses the method cout. Okay, so the output is hello there. Okay, so let's try to open a C++ compiler. So we have here array2, file name array2.cpp. So we have include iostream.h, and then string, and then conyo. So we are going to declare a value for your array, and then we uses the while. So ginamit ko lang din yung example na nasa slide natin. So we just try to execute the program in the environment of C++. So we have here again your conyo.h for your conyo.h is used for, again, for what? What is the function of the conyo.h?
Console input output.
Okay, very good. So it's a console input and output. Okay, very good. So we have here data type int r, array name, square bracket is equal to 11, 22, 33, 44, and 5. So how this program works? So int n is equal to 0, while n is less than equal to 4, and then we're going to print the first value of your r square bracket, or the first index of your array. So we have 11. And then the program will again execute the condition is n less than equal to 4, and then the output will also be displayed. Okay, so let's try to run the program. So our output is, our output is 11, 22, 33, 44, and 55. So what about the function? So let's try to run a function. So we have here function. Okay, so we have include iostream.h, include string.h. Then we have here include math.h. So this one is a built-in function in the C++ standard library. So in order for us to use the square root, for example, so in this program we're going to get the square root of a number. So we will be using math.h. Okay, and then your conyo. And then int main, and then I declared here a data type double number. So the data type is double. My identifier is number and square root. So do not forget that embedded blanks are not allowed for the C++ code. So if you, for example, if you put an embedded blank here, basically you will encounter a syntax error. So let's eliminate the embedded blanks. And the number is equal to 25.0. Since I declared a double data type, so basically it can hold a value with decimal points. Okay? And then square root is equal to square, SQRT, and number. So in this program, SQRT, open and close parentheses, is a library function which is used to calculate the square root of a number. So the function declaration of SQRT is defined in the math header file. So automatically, the square root, the log, the pow, the cosine, tangent, sine, those are some examples of the functions under the math.h. So we have C out, square root of, and then we have here number, and then equal to, and then concatenate square root, then return 0. So let's try to run the program. So let's save it first, and then let's run the program. And then let's run the program. So square root of 25. So square root of 25 is 5. So that would be the output of our program. We did not indicate a clear screen. So
Yes, ma'am.
COR, SCR. Kaya siya medyo maguling tingnan. Okay. So let's run the program again. And then, okay. So the square root of 25 is 5. Okay, another program. So we have this one. Okay. So this program is, sorry. Let's open some function. Okay. So in this program, so I added some comments para medyo hindi tayo malito when it comes to identifying where to declare the function and where are we calling the function. So include diastream, string, conyo. Then here, void add int is a function prototype. So we have here int main, and then open and close parentheses, and then open curly brace. We're going to call the function before the declaration. So add 5 and 3, return 0, and then close curly brace. So for the function definition, we have void add int a, int b, and then cout a plus b. So in this program, the function prototype is void add int. So this provides the compiler with information about the function name and the parameters that we're going to use. So that's why we can use the code to call a function before the function has been defined. So integer a will hold a value of 5, and integer b will hold the value of 3. And then we're going to add it, a plus b, that is equal to 8. So let's see if the output is 8. No error. The value is 8. Okay. So there's no clear screen again. Anyway, so the output is 8. Okay. So you try to practice your programming skills para medyo ma-master ninyo yung basic programming natin. Para pagdating ninyo ng object-oriented programming, medyo hindi na kayo mahihirapan sa pagpo-program ninyo. So basically, you just have to determine the basics of programming, like how are you going to declare a data type, how are you going to declare a particular variable, and then what is the difference between in, cout, printf, scanf, system.out. So those are the basic skills that you have to know when it comes to programming. So you practice your programming from the basic input, output, conditional statements, iterative statements, functions, array. So para medyo ma-practice kayo when it comes to programming. Okay? So again, I will be posting this virtual class presentation or the PowerPoint presentation in our LMS so that you can use this as your reference when you are practicing your programming. And do not hesitate to ask questions in the LMS chat box, or you can email me at kvdelara@amaes.edu.ph. Okay? So, any questions so far? And that's it. So, if you have
Okay,
no
ma'am.
more question, thank you for listening. Thank you for attending this virtual class.